Okay, don't go anywhere because this one starts with Disney World and ends with JD Vance. And I promise at least one moment where your brain quietly says, wait, what? So, JD Vance brings absolutely nothing to the table except for the ability to say whatever keeps him close to power. And now he's fear mongering about Somalis while raising brown children. And I need everyone to understand how unserious this man is. And real quick, I'm Lauren Paritra. Please take a moment to subscribe, share this video with a friend, hit that notifications bell, turn notifications on because I currently have a lead against Katie Miller, who is the wife of Stephen Little Bitch Miller and the man behind all this white nationalist terror. And he's from fucking Santa Monica. And we cannot let voices like that drown out the correct ones. So make sure you hit subscribe. We're in this together.
The Democrats have a little bit of a Somali problem. They've let it
America has a bit of a Somali problem.
Especially the Democrats in Minnesota. Why'd they just let it happen right under their nose?
Well, a couple of things, Jesse. First of all, if you look at the amount of fraud in the welfare system, according to the statistics I've seen, 85% of Somalians who are in the United States, legal and illegal, are collecting some form of welfare benefits. So that's not to disparage the other 15%, but when you're at 85% of a population that is collecting welfare, that suggests that we have really done something wrong with regards to vetting, and that's the fundamental issue. Even if there's no fraud, 85% collecting welfare is way too many damn people collecting welfare, getting rich off the American taxpayer while a lot of Americans struggle. That's unacceptable.
Okay, let's sit with that one for a second. JD Vance, the father of 3 brown children, the husband of Usha Vance, a first generation American Indian whose parents immigrated from India, just said on camera that America has a Somali problem. This man goes home every night to a house full of people who would be the targets of that exact rhetoric he's spewing. His wife, his children, the in-laws who came here as immigrants and built a life. And he looked into the camera and said, we have a problem with immigrants from Somalia.
What we've done is actually gotten 2.5 million illegal aliens out without any of the really big marquee things that we've been working on. That was just simple willpower and the President of the United States coming in and saying this is done. I think we're going to see those deportation numbers ramp up as we get more and more people online, working for ICE, going door to door and making sure that if you're an illegal alien, you've got to get out of this country. And if you want to come back, apply through the proper channel.
Door to door. He wants ICE agents going door to door, rounding people up, checking papers, demanding documentation. You know what that sounds like? You know what door to door roundups of people based on their ethnicity and immigration status looks like in history? Germany, 1930s. And I'm not being hyperbolic. This is literally what happened. The Gestapo went door to door. They demanded papers. They took people from their homes. They separated families, and it started with rhetoric around undesirables and problems with certain ethnic groups. JD Vance is calling for the same infrastructure, the same tactics, ICE agents going door to door in neighborhoods demanding proof of citizenship and taking people away. And he's doing it while married to the daughter of immigrants, while raising brown children who could, in another version of this country's history, be on the other side of that door. The parallels are disturbing, and they're not subtle at all. And anyone who even knows basic history should be scared. But wait, because it gets even more absurd.
Of these people are creating an environment where things like this are inevitably going to happen. A couple of months ago, I headlined a fundraiser in Southern California, and since, we'd be out there anyways, my wife and I decided to take our kids to Disneyland one weekend. We had fun, and to be clear, most of the guests said very nice things, or they just left us alone. But there was a loud and very vocal minority that would shout at my children, who were 8, 5, and 3, whenever they got the opportunity. "You should disown your dad, you little shit," one middle-aged woman yelled at my 5-year-old. "Tell the Secret Service to protect the Constitution, not your father," screamed another. Are these women violent? Probably not. Are they deranged? Certainly. And while our side of the aisle certainly has its crazies, it is a statistical fact that most of the lunatics in American politics today are proud members of the far left.
Oh no, JD Vance is upset because people are yelling at him at Disney World. Poor guy. Let me get this straight. The man who advocates for door-to-door ICE raids, he says America has a Somali problem. He supports policies that rip children from their parents' arms and puts them in cages. And he calls for mass deportations and ethnic cleansing with a smile and some guyliner on. But somebody yelled at him at Disney World, and now the left are lunatics. Let's talk about lunatics. Let's talk about violence. Let's talk about who's actually dangerous in this country. The El Paso shooter, right-wing extremist, targeted immigrants at Walmart, killed 23 people. Pittsburgh synagogue shooter, right-wing extremist, killed 11 people. The Charleston church shooter, white supremacist, killed 9 black churchgoers. The Buffalo supermarket shooter, a white supremacist, targeted a black neighborhood, killed 10 people. The Christchurch mosque shooter, right-wing extremist, killed 51 people. The list goes on and on and on. None of them trans, none of them immigrants. Just classic right-wing domestic terrorism. The leading terrorist threat in the United States. That's not an opinion. That's FBI data. That's the Department of Homeland Security assessments. But JD Vance wants us to believe that the real problem is people yelling at him at Disney World. You know what's violent? Separating children from their parents. You know what's really violent? Door-to-door ICE raids in communities where people are terrified to leave their homes and go to the grocery store. You know what's violent? Rhetoric that dehumanizes entire groups of people and makes them targets. JD Vance incites that violence. He fans those flames. He gives permission for the worst instincts in people to come out and be uncloseted. And then he cries when somebody calls him out at Disneyland. If you don't want to get yelled at Disneyland, then don't advocate for policies that destroy families. Don't call for ethnic cleansing. How about that? Don't say we have a Somali problem while raising brown children. Don't be a fucking imbecile. The audacity of this man to advocate for door-to-door deportation raids, the kind of thing that looks disturbingly like 1930s Germany, then complain that people were mean to him at a theme park. The shit writes itself at this point. And his kids were being yelled at because their father is responsible for other kids being ripped away from their parents. His kids were being yelled at because their father advocates for policies that terrorize families. His kids were being yelled at because people are watching in real time as ICE carries out unspeakable tragedies under policies that JD Vance supports and amplifies. And instead of reflecting on that, instead of thinking, maybe I'm on the wrong side of history here, he just blames the left. Let me paint you a picture of what JD Vance brings to the table, aside from guyliner and a fat face. Absolutely fucking nothing. He is void. A placeholder. A man so devoid of an original thought that his entire political identity is, what if we just said whatever the most racist thing is that I can think of, but make it sound like economic anxiety? He wrote Hillbilly Elegy, which was basically poverty tourism for liberals who wanted to feel like they understood real America without actually having to talk to poor people. The whole book's thesis was, my family was dysfunctional and poor, and that's why I'm special for escaping. Not the system is broken, not maybe we should have better social support, just I'm built different. And then he took that book, that one mediocre book, and turned it into a Senate seat. Because this has how it works now. You write one thing that makes wealthy people feel smart, and suddenly you're qualified to make laws. But here's where it gets even more sideways. This man is married to Usha, a brilliant lawyer, married to a dumbass, and she's equally responsible for that too. Usha's parents came to this country as immigrants. They have 3 kids together, 3 brown kids who will grow up in America where their own father is on record saying we have an immigration problem, where their own father is fear-mongering about people who look different from them, people who look like them. Imagine being those kids. Imagine growing up and Googling your dad and finding a clip of him saying America has a Somali problem. Imagine having to reconcile that your father built his career and his legacy on demonizing immigrants while being married into an immigrant family, while you exist as a child of an immigrant family. What does he say at the dinner table? Does Usha's family just sit there while he talks about how immigrants are destroying America? Do his kids ask him why people who look like them and look like their mom are the problem? The man doesn't even have the decency to pick a lane. And what does he actually do? What policy positions does he actually hold that aren't just recycled talking points from 2016? What has he contributed to American political discourse besides a willingness to say whatever keeps him adjacent to power? I'll wait. He's a venture capitalist who wrote a book about poor people, then decided that poor people are the problem. He's a guy who bootlegged his way to the top, married into an immigrant family, and then decided that immigrants are the problem. He's a man with no core beliefs except that being nearby to power is good. and he'll say whatever it takes to stay there. He went from calling Trump America's Hitler to becoming his most loyal bootlicker in 18 months. That's so opportunistic, and it's practically indecent. And now he's the vice president. The second most powerful person in the country is a man whose only consistent position is whatever benefits JD Vance. So when he says America has a Somali problem, what he really means is I need to say something that gets me clicks and keeps me relevant, and I've already run out of other groups to scapegoat this week. The Somali community in America, like in Minneapolis, they've built businesses, they've sent kids to college, they've contributed to their communities. They're not the problem. JD Vance is the problem. A man so empty he has to fill the void with whatever hatred is trending. His kids are going to grow up and ask him why he said those things. And he's going to have to look them in the eye and explain that their existence as brown children in America, that their mother's existence as the daughter of immigrants didn't matter as much as his career. That advocating for door-to-door ICE raids, the kind that echo the darkest chapters of human history, was all worth it for his power. That's the legacy. That's what he brings to the table. Absolutely fucking nothing except the cruelty and a book deal. So here's what you can do right now. You can share this video. You can make sure people see it. You can leave a comment so we can push it out to more people. And if you think that if you know anyone who still thinks that JD Vance is just telling it like it is, send them this. We need to call out this hypocrisy and fear-based BS for what it is. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Turn notifications on. I am Lauren P across all social media channels. JD Vance sucks and families belong together.